All right, I want you to do something for me. Just picture this. We're going to travel back in time. I mean, way back. 4,500 years ago to the sands of ancient Egypt.
Think about a construction site today, right? You've got cranes, power tools, all this heavy machinery. But back then, none of that existed. We're talking about nothing more than human hands, some ropes, and, well, some absolutely brilliant minds. And with just those basic tools, they managed to build one of the most perfect, most enduring structures in all of human history. So today, we're going to try and unlock the engineering secrets of the Great Pyramid. It's the one question that has just fascinated everyone. Historians, engineers, you name it, for centuries. I mean, how on earth did they do it? So let's set the scene. It's around 2560 BC, and our story really kicks off with the ambition of one man, Pharaoh Khufu. And look, he didn't just want a tomb. No, he demanded something that would literally scream his power and his godlike status for all time. He wanted eternity, carved out of stone. And the scale of that ambition? It's mind-boggling. We're talking about a structure made of an estimated 2.3 million individual blocks of stone. And every single one had to be cut, moved, and then placed with almost perfect precision.
And get this, these aren't just little pebbles. The average block weighed 2.5 tons. That's about the same as a modern SUV. But then you have these massive granite beams, the ones holding the whole thing together. Some of those weighed up to 15 tons. That's like trying to lift 2 full-grown elephants. Just imagine that for a second.
So the big question is, who could possibly pull something like this off? For a long, long time, people thought they knew the answer. But the truth? Well, the truth is way more interesting. You know the image, right? We've all seen it in the movies, thousands of slaves driven by the crack of a whip. It's a powerful story, but it turns out it's just not true. Modern archaeology has completely flipped that old idea on its head. So we need to completely shift our thinking here. This wasn't built by slaves. It was a massive nationwide project. This wasn't about oppression. It was a masterpiece of organization, maybe even a point of national pride.
So, if not slaves, then who? Well, archaeologists have actually found the villages where the workers lived, right there near Giza, and the evidence tells a totally different story. These were skilled laborers. A lot of them were farmers who'd come to work on the pyramid during the Nile's flood season, when their fields were underwater. And get this, they were housed, they were fed, and they were even paid with daily rations of food and beer. And that's not just a handout, that was their salary in an economy before coins. It tells us this was a highly organized, well-run state.
Okay, so we have a skilled, paid workforce. That's a huge piece of the puzzle. But that still leaves the biggest engineering problem of all. How in the world did they move these mountains of stone with no modern tech? I mean, just think about the logistics for a second. Sure, a lot of the limestone was local, but the really heavy stuff, those huge granite beams, they had to be brought all the way from Aswan. That's a trip of more than 500 miles down the Nile. Just getting the materials to the site was an unbelievable achievement. So once the stones were on land, how'd they move them across the desert? Well, the leading theory is called the sledge method, and it is absolutely genius. They'd put these giant blocks on big wooden sledges. Now, if you try to pull that across dry sand, forget it. It's almost impossible. But what they figured out, and we've seen this in ancient drawings, is that if you wet the sand just right in front of the sledge, it cuts the friction way down. Suddenly, the impossible becomes possible. Okay, but moving them on flat ground is one thing. How do you get them up? As the pyramid gets taller and taller, that's the real puzzle. The most popular idea, for sure, is the ramp theory. Basically, they built huge ramps and just dragged the blocks up layer by layer. The thing is, nobody agrees on what kind of ramp it was. Was it one giant straight ramp? Did it spiral around the outside like a corkscrew? Or, and this is a really cool idea, was there a ramp built inside the pyramid itself? We just don't know for sure. It's still a huge debate. And it's these mysteries, right? These gaps in our knowledge. That's where you get some of the wilder theories. The ones involving aliens. But honestly, all the real evidence points to something much closer to home, the incredible power of human ingenuity. I mean, just look at the precision of the thing. The Great Pyramid aligns almost perfectly with true north. We're talking a tiny fraction of a degree of error.
That's insane accuracy, even for us today, with all our technology. They did it without GPS, without even a compass. They likely used the stars, tracking their movement with incredible skill. This wasn't luck. This was advanced math and astronomy at work.
So when you start putting all these pieces together, that whole aliens built it theory it kind of falls apart, doesn't it? The truth is so much more impressive. The real secret here isn't some otherworldly technology. It was human genius. It was project management on a scale the world had never seen. It was a mastery of physics and geometry and astronomy. It was the brilliance of a civilization that could organize and motivate tens of thousands of people to work together on one single goal for decades.
And what did all that brilliance create? A legacy that has outlasted entire civilizations, a structure that stood taller than empires that would come and go. It's really hard to wrap your head around just how long this thing dominated the skyline. For almost 4,000 years, the Great Pyramid was the tallest structure built by human hands on the entire planet. Think about that. It was already ancient history by the time the Roman Empire even existed, and it held on to that title until 1889 when the Eiffel Tower was finally built. So what's the secret to its longevity? How is it still standing? Well, it really boils down to three key things. First, the math. That perfect pyramid shape is one of the most stable structures you can build. It distributes all that incredible weight perfectly. Second, organization. The sheer ability to manage a project of this scale for decades is mind-blowing. And finally, discipline. The commitment to executing the plan with precision, block after block, for generation after generation.
Which brings us back to the central mystery, right? And maybe, just maybe, the greatest mystery isn't how they built it, how they used the ramps and the ropes. Maybe the real mystery is why. Even today, we still underestimate them. Why do we find it so hard to accept that an ancient people, with their own kind of genius, were capable of achieving the impossible all on